Minister of Education, Youth and Information, the Honorable Fable Williams. Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Robert Morgan, Honorable Robert Nestor Morgan. Other special invited guests, student leaders, students, parents, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the biannual Secretariat, Vice Presidential and Presidential debates for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. My name is Najee Nunes, and I am an outgoing member of the organization. Now, together here today, we are making some history, as this is the first ever virtual debates of the organization in its 45-year history. Now, this is not how we've pictured it, and of course, we'd have loved for you to be here with us, clamoring on your candidates in the audience. But we recognize and understand that that is just not the smart and responsible thing to do right now. And so, here we are in cyberspace, making it count. Now, whether we are physical or in cyberspace, the election debates mark a very special day in the university calendar. Today, we'll be hearing from aspirants who want to lead this non-sectarian, non-political, non-partisan, and this organization that is aimed through its mandate of building a nation through student representation. You've seen their posters, you've seen their videos and other campaign paraphernalia, but you're about to hear their plans in greater detail as they share their ambitions for you and for the youth of Jamaica. Now, they're here to strive to tell you why exactly they're the better candidate, and I urge you to listen keenly and to challenge them if your thoughts and beliefs are incongruent with their own. We begin now with the national anthem, which will be followed by an invocation from one of our youth empowerment officers, and lastly, but by no means least, opening remarks from the Minister of State, brought by the Student Governance Attaché, Mr. Davy Houghton, and the JUTS President. With their own. We begin now with the national anthem, which will be followed by an invocation from
Eternal Father, bless our land. Evil powers be our life through countless hours. Do justice fruits be yours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love. Teach us true respect for all. Stir response to duty's call. Strengthen us the weak to change. Give us visions lest we perish. Knowledge sent us, Heavenly Father, grant true wisdom from above. Justice truth be yours forever. Jamaica, land we love. Jamaica, 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 land we love.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, great God of the universe, we come before you once more to give you thanks for being with us, for granting us the mental power to place ourselves in the position that we can assume great responsibility. Father, we invite your presence in this process at this moment, and we ask that you guide the proceedings. Help that things may go according to your will, and Father, may the outcome be also in keeping with your divine plan. Please be with each of the candidates, be with those who are monitoring the technical equipment, Please be with those who are overseeing the process and those who will benefit by the service of these candidates. May your will be done in our lives, and please guide this process. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Greetings, everyone. President Everton Rattray, student leaders in our cyberspace, candidates here in-house, other distinguished guests and members here, and also in cyberspace, good afternoon. I've been asked by the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, being the student governance attaché assigned to JUTS, to read the minister message. And here goes. So says, greetings, student leaders. It is a pleasure to be here to speak with you today. I want to emphasize on the importance of student leadership. No leadership only promotes building relationships within teams, but it gives you a clearer understanding of personal identity. It also provides an opportunity to learn, to identify and display effective communication and interpersonal skills. It is only through participation in these decision-making processes that students can develop democratic values and the sense of democratic citizenship. In this democratic country, we all have a say, including you, fellow students. It is empirical that our voices must be heard, which is why you all should play your part in selecting a leader that you think will be most effective. This is why student voting matters. I am imploring you to listen respectfully to the ideas of the nominees and engage in both constructive and critical discussions. This will aid you to distinguish between reliable and unreliable political information, with hopes of building a network of student leaders committed to democratic renewal. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires the thoughtful involvement of its participants to foster a healthy democracy. Our aim is to prepare college and university students to be engaged in citizenship. Our youth are now paying attention to the need for political change in ways we have not seen in years. That gives the rest of us not only an opportunity, but also, in fact, an obligation to seize this moment and help our students build the knowledge and skill they need to shape a brighter future for the Jamaican democracy. And this message is on behalf of the Honorable Nestor Morgan, State Minister within the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, responsible for youth. I'll just in closing add as a student governance attaché assigned to work with the Jamaica Union of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, rather, to just frame somewhat for you our working relationship over the years. The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information under the youth policy has a responsibility to preserve youth participation in democratic processes. The Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students is one of those national student-led and youth organizations the ministry has a mandate to work with insofar as providing capacity building to student leaders, providing technical assistance, financial support as well, to ensure that these institutions are there, not only at the national level, but at the tertiary level, that the student councils, the unions, the guilds are operational and participate in the democratic processes that affects the delivery of education in Jamaica. And so I just want to commend the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. This is their third election cycle since the ministry has started an effort in 2015 to revamp the JUTS, because it would have been dormant for some years. So again, big commendation to the current executive. And I just want to say we have members as a part of succession. I've been realizing over the years that members from the outgoing are also seeking re-election, and that is a good thing for succession as well. And so I want to commend them, and I also want to extend that sort of commendation also for those student leaders from the guilds, from the unions, putting up themselves for student leadership, for serving. It's not an easy task. If you're elected, you'll be in office for 2 years, and that time will require you to balance your academic pursuit and your involvement. And so, again, commendation, keep up the good work. And with no further ado, I'll just hand over back to our moderator, Mr. Najee Nunez. Thank you very much. Have best wishes to all candidates again. And for those viewing in cyberspace, I hope you'll all be writing down all of those questions, because we want you to engage the candidates constructively, as the minister had alluded to in his remarks read by me a while ago. Thanks again, best wishes, candidates.
Thank you so much, Sir Horton. On behalf of the Honorable Robert Nestor Morgan, Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, we'll now be hearing from the President of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, Mr. Everton Rattray.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just checking if you're all hearing clearly. Okay. Good afternoon again. My name is Everton Rattray, as mentioned before. I'm President of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. I want to first take this moment to just say welcome on behalf of the executive. We are happy to have you guys join us today for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students presidential debate. It is very unprecedented times that we're in, and as such, we have to be using this medium to host our debates and not being in person. But there are a number of things that I want to mention. I will just try to be quickly, as I'm just bringing greetings on behalf of the organization at this time. We have had the privilege of getting a number of activities through the door over the last 2 years, and I would just like to take the moment to just mention some of those activities. We've had the privilege of having the work and travel situation resolved in some regards, with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security being a very helpful partner in that process, assisting students to get their refunds and also assisting some students to transition their funds to the following year. We have assisted in some regards to about a number of 300 students in that process. Not only that, we have also had the privilege of assisting students with our online Zoom platform. As a result of the COVID-19 effect on our general education process and system, we're unable to meet in person. And as a result of that, we're able to recognize that the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students could play a key role in assisting persons to gather and to continue that social interaction. And we created, or should I say, we were able to afford a premium Zoom account, which on average we have weekly about 5 to 7 schools, or should I say student organizations, utilizing our platform. So we're very grateful that we're able to assist a number of our institutions in that process, and as we continue that work. One another very important initiative that we have done so far this year is we have started what we call the National Safety and Security Policy document. And I must acknowledge that it's with tremendous effort from the Jamaica Tertiary Education Commission with helping to make sure that policy guideline document was fully a success. We have no national policy that speaks to safety and security in the tertiary landscape, and we're very happy that we're able to have that through the door during this very difficult time that we have at hand. Not only that, But we're also able to donate a number of tablets to tertiary and secondary students in the process. And we have also been able to give back 3 or 4 book grants valued at $13,000 each to tertiary students in the same regards. We have also had the privilege of also getting 2 premium Zoom accounts for the year, and we have made the effort to donate one of those premium accounts to the National Secondary Students Council, and we have also made the effort to make sure that the next premium account will go to the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students so that they can continue the effort to assist students when this executive leaves office. So we are happy that we're able to do some of those work, and there are several other things that I could mention, but due to time, we will stop there. Another important thing that I just want to mention before I close is the importance of listening to the candidates today. I encourage you to take the time to listen to the proposals that they're making. I encourage you to also look at what is best for you and the current situation that we're in as university students. We have to look at who's coming with the best policies. We have to also look at how that person is equipped to carry out those activities that they say they're going to carry out. Not only that, also, how do they propose that those activities will be funded? These are very important questions that must be asked. And I know a number of questions will be asked, and I ask you to pose those questions on our social media if you're in the audience, or personnel who is dealing with the social media platform will record all those questions and will take those questions directly to the host so that those questions could be posed to the candidates. Not only that, we'll also have questions being posed from the audience here. So we're just saying to you that take the time and listen. I just hope that you enjoy this process. I'm happy that you're able to join us, whether you're joining from Zoom or you're joining from YouTube. We're grateful for you to be here and for the level of interest you're putting in student governance. Again, thank you all for being here, and I look forward to a very good discussion and presidential debate.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the JUTS President, Mr. Everton Rattray, bringing greetings on behalf of the organization. And now, for the reason why we are here, we begin with the Secretariat debates. Now, the General Secretary is the Chief Administrative Officer within the Union with responsibility for ensuring that all the members and member organizations are kept abreast of the developments that unfold within the tertiary education landscape. Now, the individuals vying for this post will be given a total of 3 minutes to present their address, at the end of which they'll receive a 10-second grace period to culminate their speech, beyond which point, if they continue to speak, the microphone will be muted and you'll be unable to hear them. We have 2 candidates that are vying for this post. The first, Mr. Stephen Anderson, who hails from the Caribbean Maritime University. He currently reads for a degree in logistics and supply chain management, and his experience includes being a brand ambassador for the Caribbean Maritime University, a member of the Students' Union in the capacities of the Assistant Secretary, and finally, the Vice President of Activities. The other candidates being Ms. Tony Ann Townsend from the UA Mona. She pursues a degree in physical therapy. She is currently the UA Mona Guild Secretary. She was the Taylor Hall Deputy EAC and was also the Physical Therapy Students Association Vice President. Unfortunately, Ms. Townsend is unavoidably absent today, and so the only candidate we'll be hearing from is Mr. Stephen Anderson. And they will come to us, or he will come to us now, giving his address.
Zigzagger once said, "Be bold but not rude. Be strong but not rude. Be kind but not weak. Be bold but not bullied. Be humbled but not timid. Be proud but not arrogant." My name is Stefan Anderson, currently a final year student at the Caribbean Maritime University, vying for the position of General Secretary within the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. Since the beginning of my tenure at the Caribbean Maritime University, I have occupied many positions and leadership roles, some of which are the founder and president of the CMU Leads Club, CMU Brand Ambassador, CMU LAPD Assistant Secretary and Secretary, Secretary and Vice President for CMU Tutorials, CMU Students Union Assistant Secretary and Secretary, and currently the Vice President of Activities. Over the past years, I have been able to gain a sufficient level of knowledge within management and leadership skill. The opportunity of running for this position provides me to exercise the skills I have gained in the capacity of maintaining and exercising the role and responsibility of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students General Secretary. My main goal of becoming the General Secretary is to become the link between JUTS and the student body within all universities. I believe the voice of the students and every university is very important, and JUTS are a representation of each and every institution. In the end, this will strengthen the current relationship between JUTS and the various institutions. Michael Bolte Johnson says, a good listener is one who always pays attention, not to gain, but to learn. If I become the 2021 to 2023 General Secretary, I plan to become the liaison person between all secretaries from the universities and within and various stakeholders. The aim is to collect information that could be deemed necessary to JUTS and the umbrella institution, conduct a workshop for various student leaders within the umbrella realm of JUTS, advocate and strengthen the clarity between JUTS and student body population in conjunction with Director of Communication through the mediums of fortnightly newsletters and video blogs, liaise with VPs and communication team to keep the student body abreast of activities happening within the JUTS and various social media platforms. The need for effective communication and correspondence is of vital importance. Hence, as an elected General Secretary, I will develop a policy plan and get everyone involved. This policy plan will be named GenCon, Generation of Connectivity. Avail myself to the institution so that they have the opportunity to express any issue they might face within the school. Revamp or create a youth-friendly interface website called JUTS Conspectus, where institution will have access to various information alongside making myself available through office hours. Engage all secretariat from various institutions, read minutes and trustees board minutes and so on. With JUTS now as an elected secretary, I will ensure that proper communication, both written, verbally, and all social media will be at the forefront of our mandate. In closing, having the opportunity to be the 2021-2022 General Secretary will provide me with the platform to be the voice of various institutions. This may appear to be good, yes, I must admit, but then there is good, there is better, and there is best. Let us try to be the best version of ourselves. And that begins with you voting for Stefan Anderson to be your General Secretary. Having experience is good, but experience without ingenuity and a workable vision is like a ship on land. It cannot set sail. Do you want to work in JUTS? Vote Stefan Anderson for General Secretary. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anderson, for your impassioned speech. I'm sure the candidates have taken notes, and we already have questions to give you. As said earlier, Ms. Tony and Townsend is unavoidably absent, and we wish her well wherever she is. And so, Mr. Anderson, your question, and also I must forgot to mention that you can ask your questions. The question here is reserved for our social media correspondents. So if you hear Mr. Anderson, or have you heard him a while ago, feel free to ask your questions and he will give them to me so I can ask him here on the public platform. So Mr. Anderson, pursuant to the Constitution, you will be responsible for recording minutes, resolutions, motions, and distributing same in a stringently timely fashion and managing a 5-person team, each with different personalities, skill sets, capabilities, and those are not necessarily best suited to their given position. How do you plan to manage this hefty portfolio in tandem with your role as a student?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Nunes, for that question. First, I must say that, as I said, I was secretary for the Students' Union, clubs and societies from high school. I must admit that the whole writing process wasn't one of my main strong areas. But being on the Students' Union for the Caribbean Maritime University, it has equipped me with the knowledge, skill, and I also learned how to manage my time more efficiently. So I don't think that this is something that I'll have a problem with because I have grown into the position of Assistant Secretary and Secretary to the Students' Union. So I guess I know I have the potential to carry out this mandate.
All right, thank you. Another question. As a former secretary, what in your own estimation would have been your greatest contribution to the Students' Union?
Well, one of my greatest contribution being a secretary, as I said, that to the student, it has helped me in various aspects where it also helped me with my tutoring abilities, where I help students from the Caribbean Maritime University who are having problems with courses and so forth.
All right, and I just received a question from our social media. This one asks, as the custodian of information within the Students' Union, how will you maintain confidentiality in the union while preserving awareness so no one feels uninformed?
All right, so confidentiality is something that we must put at the forefront when representing various organizations and institutions. So you have to know who to share information with, what type of information. So you have to know the various types of information, closed information, open information, and so forth.
All right, Mr. Anderson, that's all I have here for you at the moment. Thank you so much
Thank you
for
very
coming
much for
today,
having
and I
me.
wish you all the best in your campaign.
Thank you very much.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our secretariat debate where we heard from Mr. Stephen Anderson from the Caribbean Maritime University, and we would have heard from, or should have heard, from the other candidate being Ms. Tony Ann Townsend from the UA Mona. We will now proceed immediately into our second vice presidential debates. Now, the second vice president of national and international affairs acts as the national representative on all issues in the tertiary education landscape. Now, this person will operate and administer facilities and services to avail to our friends and families overseas as they safeguard the interests of our students here in Jamaica. Now, the individuals vying for this post will be given a total of 5 minutes to present their address, after which they'll receive a 10-second grace period to culminate their speech, beyond which point the microphones will be muted and so you'll be unable to hear them. We have two candidates again vying for the second vice presidential post. The first is Mr. Deshaun Cook from the UA Western Jamaica campus. He currently pursues a degree in Management Information Systems, and his experience includes being the Western Jamaica campus chairperson. He is also the UA Mona Guild chairman. He also serves as the St. James Youth Leaders Organization president and director. We also have Mr. Ravel Coke, also from UA Mona. He pursues a degree in law, and his experience includes being a youth parliamentarian, vice president of the National Secondary Students Council of Jamaica, NSSC, and being the head boy of Charlemont High School. They will come to us in that order. Unfortunately, they both aren't able to be here with us in a corporeal setting, and so they'll be joining us virtually. Mr. Cook, are you there? Deshaun?
I'm here, just checking if you're hearing. Are you hearing me?
As we await confirmation on his presence, I again want to wish or thank the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information for availing this room to us. We're here in a very picturesque room with a lovely view of the Hero Circle and environs, and this is something that could not have been afforded by another agency. The Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students is forever grateful for their efforts in safeguarding the interests of our young people, especially in a democratic setting. So I'm being told that Mr. Cook is now online. Mr. Cook?
Yes, I'm online and hearing.
Okay. Over to you, Mr. Cook.
Minister of Education, Moderator, Students Governance Officer, JUTS President, fellow competitors, all other JUTS executive hopefuls, or specially invited guests, and of course to our viewers online, a pleasant afternoon is extended to you all. You see, inclusion, it is not tolerance. It is unquestioned acceptance. And being a part of the minorities has taught me a few lessons. The major one being not leaving the task to any other individual to have you sitting at the table. I am an avid believer in the notion that one must always aim to be as impactful as they can in whatever leadership role assumed. And not only have I served, but effected meaningful change in the following roles that I've assumed. Currently, I serve as the Guild Chairman of the UWI Mona Guild Council, the Director and President of the St. James Youth Leaders Organization, and the Director of Public Relations for 876 Youth. One would indispensably agree that the JUTS should be seen as the premier tertiary leadership organization in Jamaica, regionally and by extension internationally. And that in doing so, there are a few things that I will do to ensure that we achieve this grand vision. Number one, increasing the membership of JUTS. Inclusion is a right and it's not a privilege for a select few. I mean, after all, this organization is called the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students and not the Jamaica Union of Select Tertiary Students. As such, I will seek to partner with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information to have all tertiary institutions, both public and private, registered under the JUTS. This will improve the effectiveness and reach of the organization. The second is to have monthly regional meetings. Having all presidents in one space is commendable, and that is a starting point. But at what point do we engage them? At what juncture do we get a hold of the issues that they're facing? Having monthly regional meetings will be done in an effort to increase unity among institutions and will act as a platform for different institutions to voice their issues and to strategize advocacy. The third is to increase just representation on major national boards. Our tertiary students have been put on mute for far too long, and we have been underrepresented and excluded from the decision-making process. I am of the belief that once a board is put in place that's going to make decisions that will be affecting our tertiary students, then representation from the JUTS must be present. The JUTS will aim to have adequate and effective representation on major boards such as the Students' Loan Bureau, the Council of Community Colleges Jamaica, and the Teachers' Colleges of Jamaica. We're also going to look to increase JUTS representation in the regional and international space. No man is an island and no man stands alone. And the JUTS works alongside our tertiary institutions island-wide to amplify their voices. But do we have adequate regional and international relationships? The more relationships we have with regional and international organizations who share a common goal will result in greater support and more impactful advocacy. Organizations that we seek to partner with include UNESCO, Commonwealth Youth Council, the Commonwealth Students Association, the Global Students Forum in their working groups, and the Latin American and Caribbean Continental Student Organization, OCLAE. We also plan to complete the registration process of 2 affiliate members of JUTS. Equal representation is something that forms the core of my leadership. And during my consultation sessions with our presidents, they would have noted that our community colleges and teachers' colleges feel underrepresented. And as such, JUTS will work to ensure that the voice of all students are heard. And we will work on completing the process of having a sub-council for community colleges and teachers' colleges. And last but by no means least, increasing the autonomy of student leadership. Student leadership bodies must be given the opportunity to self-govern and self-organize. A body that is put in place to hold administration accountable should not be financially controlled nor operationally dependent on said administration. Currently, ladies and gentlemen, our fellow leaders, these are nearly planned. But with your help, we can move one step closer to making this a reality. On March 23 and 24, 2021, vote for inclusion.
All right. We are back here. Unfortunately, Mr. Cook, you ran out of time, but I'm sure that our constituents and our electorate have heard what you have said. Is Mr. Cook online or other second vice presidential candidate? As we await confirmation of his presence, I also want to thank the videography and streaming services provided by PhD students for supporting our own. His CEO is one member of our organization, Mr. Calvin Brown. Very happy to have you here with us, Mr. Brown. So I am being told that Mr. Cook is not online, and so we'll proceed with the questions for our second vice presidential candidate. Mr. Hook, confirming you're still there?
I'm still here.
Oh, great. So you spoke to JUTS becoming a household name to elicit the right response from our students in your campaign video. What is your current view of the organization, and what would you like to see it become through your portfolio?
All right, that's a really wonderful question. And I must begin by saying that the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students is an organization that is supposed to be the guild of all guilds, the union of all unions, the association of all associations. But I mean, they would have made some room during this executive tenure, but there's more that can be done. And as such, what I will aim to do is to ensure that all students feel the presence of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students when it comes on to advocacy, when it comes on to matters that are important to them and important to us. At the end of the day, we are the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. We are there to better serve our students. And if they aren't feeling our presence, then I think then at that point, we may not have been effective as a union. So they would have made some room, they would have made some ground, but we want it to be seen as what it should be. And that is the Guild of all guilds and the Council of all councils.
All right, I hear you loud and clear. Another question for you. Now, a 2013 World Bank study found evidence to suggest that roughly 85% of Jamaica's tertiary level graduates migrate. What factors do you think push our graduates to relocate, and what proposal would you give the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to stem brain drain from our students?
Most definitely, and that is a very timely question, because in a time like this when we're going through a pandemic, a lot of persons have lost their jobs. There are limited jobs available at this point, and that goes to show that a main reason for persons leaving or migrating is the lack of jobs, for one, and two, the lack of adequate pay when it comes on to our jobs. And we can link this back to the SLB. You get a loan from the Students' Loan Bureau. You're expected to start paying immediately after graduation. And at the same time, you're getting like $60,000 per month. So then the best option for some, as persons may see, is to migrate and to make better for themselves and their families. Because at the end of the day, some persons did not send themselves to university. So one proposition that I'd make to the Ministry of Labour and the Ministry of Labour is to ensure that adequate jobs are in place for our recent graduates, and not only adequate jobs, but adequately paying jobs to ensure that they too can fend for themselves and their family members.
All right, and another question for you before we head to our social media questions. It says, considering the current ethnic climate around the world, driven by the Black Lives Matter movement, George Floyd protests, and the recent damning Oprah interview, do you think the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students has a part to play in supporting student-led anti-racism movements overseas?
Most definitely. I think, especially as a second vice president, through your portfolio, you have responsibility for Jamaican students who may have been abroad. And as such, they too may be experiencing racism. I can speak for myself when I went and work and travel. I too would have had that experience of what it feels like to have racist slurs coming against you or coming towards you. And as such, I think we have a part to play in sensitizing our fellow students that, hey, guess what? No matter what others have to say, you are still you. You are humans. And as such, I think the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students should step out and make that bold step of making our voices heard and to represent our students who have been abroad because of different opportunities that would have been made available to them.
All right, thank you. And I just received my social media question. It reads, given that we have already experienced a year of remote online learning, what problems have you noted our students experience, and what are your plans to mitigate them if we are to endure another year of remote learning?
All right, wonderful. So based on my own observation, there are issues that we're seeing, such as the lack of internet connection, persons not being able to connect to classes because of the lack of devices, or even funding still remains an issue, even more so prevalent in a time like this. So what I would do, is to ensure, as I said, through our monthly regional meetings, we can link it back to that. That will be a forum for our presidents to come forward and state some of the issues that they are having. And then as a just, we can make a suggestion as to how we can move forward. But readily, I can say that we need to make steps in terms of providing tuition grants. May not be full tuition, as we may not be in a financial position to do so, but tuition grants, ensuring that we reach out to corporate, building our relationships when it comes on to private and public sector to ensure that we too play a part in providing these devices, the funds that are needed for tuition, etc.
All right, Sir Cook, I'm sure our electorate has here. Yeah, my final question to you from our social media. This one comes from Justine. She asks, how will you achieve inclusivity for all tertiary institutions if as a UA student, the tables are almost always turned in your favor?
All right, absolutely. And I don't mean to put UA under any fire, but I'm from the UA Muna Western Jamaica campus. And in my speech, I would have said that I know what it feels like to be a part of the minority groups. And at the end of the day, some of the times it's not really just the advocacy that's not being in certain institutions' favor, but it's the resources. And as such, I think we need to come together as a union. It's not UA versus UTEC, it's not UA versus CM, it's not UA versus Sam Sharp Teachers College. It is us as a Jamaica Union of tertiary students to see how best is it that we can move forward. What are the plans that we can put together to ensure that everybody has a level playing field? And my campaign is based on inclusion. All 6 manifesto points that I would have put forward would have been for all tertiary students and not just the University of the West Indies. So that is what I have to say in response to, Miss Justine, who has concerns that as a UA student, it may be turned in our favor. It's not UA versus any other student. It is the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students.
Message loud and clear. Ladies and gentlemen, that was second vice president candidate, Mr. Deshaun Cook, coming from the UA Western Jamaica campus. Thank you so much, Mr. Cook, for being here with us today. And so we are moving on up the heavenly highway as we progress onto our first vice presidential debates. Now, the first vice president of Policy, Advocacy, Research and Development will be the head of the JUTS's Constitutional Committee. They will also create policy guidelines to articulate the JUTS's overall mission and the functions of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, and will be the chief advocate on behalf of the tertiary students. Now, the individuals vying for this post as well have been given 5 minutes to present their address, after which time they'll be given 10 seconds grace period, as per usual, to culminate their speeches. Beyond that point, you guys know the customary, the microphones will be muted and you will be unable to hear them. Again, we have 2 candidates vying for this post. Our first candidate is Miss Marlene Campbell, who hails from the Northern Caribbean University. She currently pursues a degree in psychology. Her experience includes being the Vice President of Academic Administration for the United Students Movement, and I believe Initiative Ambassador for the Governor General's Program for Excellence, and a former youth parliamentarian. We also have Miss Suyan Thompson, who is from the Norman Manley Law School. She currently, of course, pursues a degree in law, and her experience includes being the Deputy Director of Communications for the outgoing body of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students and the Year 1 representative for the morning stream of the Norman Manley Law School. They will present to us in that order. Marlene?
It was Napoleon Hill who said, "The successful leader must plan his work and work his plan." I am Marlene Campbell, a third-year psychology and communications major at the Northern Caribbean University, where I serve as the first vice president for the United Student Movement, and I serve as a former youth parliamentarian and currently as an I Believe Initiative ambassador. Ministry of Education, distinguished guests, members of the JUTS executive, my fellow students and colleagues, a pleasant afternoon. As we're all aware, we're living in a very peculiar time. There have been immense changes in every aspect of human life and interaction. Every social structure has been disrupted, and our education system needs to be revamped. Now more than ever, our students need a voice. They need an advocate. They need a structure. They need something binding. They need change. I have not been around for a century, but there's one principle that I've known and tested to be true, and it is nothing changes without change. I present to you 4 flexible and feasible plans that I will execute. Number 1, the creation of a Tertiary Education Policy Revision Committee, TEPRC Committee, where this committee will review the policies and guidelines that governs institutions and how they affect students. With the prolonged pandemic, it has shown the importance of having flexible policies that will allow students to function effectively in a physical and online environment. But how will this committee work? It will be chaired by the first vice president. Policy students will be recruited to be a part of this committee. Meetings will be held on a bi-weekly basis, and possible solutions and suggestions will be highlighted and documented to be submitted to the Ministry for improvement and implementation. 2, by conducting an island-wide research to identify some of the most pressing issues that students are facing on their campuses. With the current pandemic, there have been many changes that have taken place, and students are faced with more challenges than usual. Challenges include examinations, accommodation, assessment timelines, amongst many others. As student leaders, we must first know the challenges that our students are facing so that we can serve them with efficacy. Not only must we listen to their issues and concerns, but we must also hear their solutions and suggestions that they have to effect change to the challenges that they face. And this research will be done by allowing the unions and councils to identify the necessary issues, the issues that students are facing on their campuses. The council reps will be required to submit a report with the issues and concerns that students are facing, as well as suggested solutions, and they will be required to meet with students to have a detailed meeting on these issues and how we can address and finalize the solutions to these problems. The research will be done on a monthly basis. 3, the creation of a legal aid clinic aimed at reviewing the union's constitutions to identify areas of improvement. As student leaders, we ought to be guided by a constitution that will enable us to make decisions fairly on behalf of our students as we strive to serve and represent them. If the current pandemic has shown us nothing else, it has illustrated how time can change, hence a need for constant review. The reality is that most of the constitutions that guide us are not flexible enough to function in both the physical and online environment. And other student bodies are without constitutions. And so this legal aid clinic will be chaired by the first vice president. Students will be recruited in areas of law, political science, public administration, amongst others, and various constitutions will be assessed to identify necessary amendments, and constitutions will be formulated for student bodies without any binding documents. 4, the continuation of training sessions for tertiary student leaders in areas of advocacy, policy, and research. Now, the current vice president would have guided the implementation of this initiative, and I believe it is an excellent way to assist our students in developing their abilities in research, advocacy, and policy making. Student leaders must be equipped with the necessary abilities needed to become effective advocates and leaders, even as we seek to navigate this new era. But not only will students be benefiting from the training sessions, but they will also be empowered. And so these training sessions will be done through a partnership with the Jamaican Association for Debating and Empowerment, JADE, and other organizations aimed at these pillars: advocacy, research, and policy, to hold sessions on public speaking, effective advocacy skills, and how to develop research skills and policy documents. The session will be done in the form of online discussions where these matters will be addressed and students can pitch their solutions to the different challenges that they're facing. So let us continue to build a nation through student representation by creating an avenue for equal opportunities and stronger leadership. And on March 23rd and 24th, jump on the scene with Marlene and vote for continuity, vote for integrity, vote for accountability. Vote Marlene Campbell for your next first vice president of advocacy, policy, research, and development for the Jamaican Union of Tertiary Students.
All right, thank you so much, Marlene. I'm sure our electorate has heard you loud and clear. And so now we're going to move on to our next candidate for this post, Ms. Suyan Thompson. Again, she's a student from the Norman Manley Law School. I await confirmation of her presence on the live stream. She should be joining us online, as she too was unable to make it here at the physical venue. Suyan, are you with us?
I am. Are you hearing me?
Yes, I have heard you. Are we seeing you? I'm not seeing you.
Are you sure?
Okay, we are seeing you now. Over to you.
Greetings all. I am Suyen Thompson, your candidate for first Vice President for Advocacy, Policy, Research, and Development for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. Service to my country, unity of purpose, and the drive to succeed is what defines me. It is that indomitable spirit that makes up every fiber of my body. I am running for first vice president because I have the skills, the tenacity, and the know-how as we seek to resolve the challenges that we face as tertiary students. Advocacy can go a far way, and being at the table to influence decisions that affects us is not only purposeful but encouraging. Having served as Deputy Director of Communications for JUTS, I have an acute understanding of what confronts us. I have lived most of these challenges. It is my goal to advance the work of those of the past that have done so much to advance the interests of our students. A foundation that now allows us to build, develop, and prepare for the future by paving the way for those to come. This journey is about people, purpose, and passion. My commitment to you, through the words of the motto of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, is building a nation through students' representation. Leadership is a true calling, one that takes vision, discipline, and selfishness. These are the qualities that define me. I have and will continue to advocate on your behalf, shape policies backed by solid research, and will continue to dialogue with you, my fellow students, as we develop plans and initiatives to overcome the challenges we face as tertiary students. A vote for Suyen Thompson is a vote for a first vice president committee, which will co-opt members from teachers' colleges, community colleges, and universities. In 2021, we must do things differently. How do we ensure greater participation and support from all individuals at the tertiary level? How do we restore faith and hope in leadership of those we lead? I am confident this idea, which represents a partnership for development where voices, every institution will be presented with equal opportunity to share ideas and concern as we formulate solutions. This committee will be focused on developing policies geared towards tertiary students. Secondly, constitutional reform. For a student body to be most efficient, plans and roadmaps ought to be explicitly available to guide decisions and actions. As such, my continuous legal training will be utilized to guide the actions of student leaders. I will ensure every student-led body has a functional constitution, effective and tailor-made to the purpose and objective they seek to accomplish. Thirdly, advocate for a seat at the table. To see to it that student bodies, through their representatives, are consulted when decisions are being considered at their institutions. This will reduce or eliminate the just work with it approach to decisions. Having a seat at the table will facilitate through continuous dialogue the formation of policies that are reflective of the issues being faced by the institution and its greatest asset, you, the students. Fourthly, tertiary funding. Education represents one of the greatest investments one can make in a lifetime. But the resources to invest is often limited with few options to look for support. While scholarships do exist, the resources raised for can only support so much students, with some unfortunately getting left out. As such, the burden is then left up to us and our parents to find creative ways to fund our education. I know firsthand the challenges we face. Having to sit out a year of law school due to funding challenges myself, my alternative was to seek loans from financial institutions to complete my studies. But the interest rate is a problem, and as such, I will seek to engage financial institutions to see how best special education loans can be created or reviewed to achieve lower interest rate charges to students. These plans, however, are not limited to the goal I seek to achieve for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. Just some I believe is worth mentioning. This election day, vote for a candidate who will serve you and has your best interest at heart. Who but Sue? Vote Suyen Thompson for first vice president for advocacy, policy, research, and development. I am confident that on March 23rd and 24th, you will make the right choice.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Miss Suyan Thompson hailing from the Norman Manley Law School. And so, as is customary, we head into our question and answer segment. Remember that those of you watching in social media land, you can send your questions in the chat and they'll be relayed to me so I can ask the candidates here in real color. And so, Marlene, since you're here with us, my first question is for you. Now, research integrity is of utmost importance when conducting investigations. How will you safeguard the reliability of the studies you carry out?
Thank you for that question. Safeguarding the information that the studies that we carry out is very crucial, right? Because of course we need them to utilize. And so ensuring that they are kept confidential is crucial. And that is one thing that I will ensure, to ensuring that no one has access who does not need to have access, but the persons necessary to view these information. And so just ensuring that confidentiality is maintained.
All right, thank you. Suyen, a question for you. When students apply for jobs, they're often required to have work experience. Do you think there are enough internship opportunities available for tertiary students in Jamaica, and what role can this play in their development?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Suyen, are you hearing me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing.
Okay, awesome. The question reads, when students apply for jobs, they're often required to have work experience. Do you think there are enough internship opportunities available for students in Jamaica, and what role can this play in their development?
Oh, thank you for that question. No, I don't believe that there's enough internship for tertiary students. And as such, in my manifesto plan, I propose that there's a partnership with the private sector to place persons that have in the particular areas that they have been studying so that they can have that level of experience. And it is really good to have that experience so that when you go in the work world, rather, you'll be able to utilize those skills that you have garnered through those internships.
All right, thank you, Suyan. Question for you both to answer. Having examined the National Youth Policy of Jamaica revised in 2017, do you think it is comprehensive enough to effectively combat the plights of today's youth? And if not, what proposals do you make to be changed? Having examined the National Youth Policy of Jamaica revised in 2017, do you think it is comprehensive enough to effectively combat the plights of today's youth? And if not, what do you propose be changed? Marlene, I think I can begin with you.
No problem. Thank you for that question. To be honest, I think there's always room for improvement. And as we would have seen, we would have transitioned from a physical environment to an online environment, and this has had, adverse effects on our students across all institutions. And so I think it needs to be revised to, be able to function for both the online environment and a physical environment. And so, reviewing these to see what can be put in place to ensure that our students are, benefiting from these policies and they have their best interest at heart, then that would be crucial. So ensuring that, policies that are flexible enough to function for both environment, that would be necessary. And that would be one of the things that, under being the first vice president, I'll definitely ensure that it's being done to ensure that, these policies are reviewed so that we can put forward suggestions on how we can have more flexible policies to serve our students better.
All right, thank you, Ms. Campbell. And Ms. Thompson, your response?
For me, I believe that there should be inclusion of the online learning. This would include, because most of these courses that we are doing was not made for online. And so I believe that there should be in the policy a reassessment of how teaching is being done to fit the online learning that should be put forward in the policy.
Thank you. And this question just came to me from our social media. Someone is asking, what advocacy projects have you both championed and what challenges do you encounter? So what advocacy projects have you championed and what challenges did you encounter? I think I'll start with Suyan this time.
Okay, one of my advocacy that I've done was in 2017 when it was to end violence against women and children. I had seek partnership with the police station in Montego Bay, and the challenging phase with this is having persons really come out knowing that it was such a sensitive situation rather. But there are ways and means that we have done as a group of us to see how best that we could have helped those persons. So the challenge was really to how best that we can help those that we want to help, seeing that it was such a sensitive situation.
Thank you. And seeing that we have some time remaining, I will afford the candidates to ask each other a question, should you so choose. So Marlene, do you have a question you'd like to ask Suyan? All right, Suyan, would you like to ask Marlene a question?
Wow. No, not at this time. I don't know if there's a next opportunity, but not at this time.
All right. So,
However, Najee, I did not get to answer the question that was asked.
oh yes, apologies, please.
No problem. Right, so what advocacy project have I been a part of? So I would have started as a youth parliamentarian, and through this platform, we'd have been able to impact the youth of Jamaica, in your different constituencies. And something specific that I spoke on was, better mental health for youth, and just for these services to be provided for them in a better way so that we can ensure that the mental health of our youth are continuously being addressed, and they're finding ways to ensure that they can have better mental health amidst the challenges that they may face. And also, serving as the Vice President of Academics for the United Students Movement at NCU, I would have been able to, relate to the students on their different academic challenges, and to speak with the academic board to see how best we can go forward in addressing their problems, especially as it relates to, online learning and the challenges that they may have been facing as it relates to examinations. So those are some of the projects that I would have been a part of. And I'm definitely continuing that journey of service and advocacy to ensure that, those I serve and just the youth of Jamaica are benefiting from what I do to contribute.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first from Miss Marlene Campbell from the Northern Caribbean University and Miss Suyan Thompson from the Norman Manley Law School, our first vice presidential candidates for policy, advocacy, research, and development. Ladies, thank you both so much.
Definitely.
You're welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the flagship event for the annual, or the biannual rather, debates exercise. We will now be hearing from our presidential candidates. Now, the presidential candidates, or the president of the organization, will be the head of the executive and be responsible for providing leadership to the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. They will also be responsible for coordinating the work of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students towards achieving the stated ambitions. The individuals vying for this post will be given a total of 2 additional minutes, which means that they'll be given 7 minutes to present their address. And as is customary, at the end of those 7 minutes, they'll be given 10 seconds to culminate their speech, at the end of which they will be muted and you'll be unable to hear them again. Now, it seems as though we have kind of a trifecta or a dual thing going here, because again, we have 2 candidates vying for this post. So our first candidate is Mr. Chad Rattray. Now, Mr. Chad Rattray hails from the University of West Indies Mona campus. He pursues a degree in law, and his experience includes being the founder and president of the Jamaica Millennium Vision for Youth, also the vice president of the Jamaica Prefects Association, and also being a member of the National Secondary Students Council. We also have Ms. Christina Williams, who is no stranger to the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, and she currently serves as our first vice president of Policy Advocacy Research and Development. She also previously was the president of the UMona Guild of Students and was on the National Secondary Students Council. They will come to us now in that order, beginning with Mr. Chad Rattray.
Good afternoon, everybody. Presidents, students, executives of the various councils, unions, and guilds across Jamaica. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is a very good day for us as an organization, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. As you know, JUTS celebrates 45 years of service. As we know, we currently face one of the biggest, serious, hardest times as a country. We are now facing the COVID-19 pandemic since last year, 2020. We have all suffered through difficult circumstances, but our leaders across Jamaica remain resilient. And I want to pick up every single one of you for the work that you have done. As a student leader myself, I understand and I am affected by the various issues. I share your realities and your concerns. I have utilized my network, my platform that have been created to assist thousands of students across Jamaica. Since the pandemic, I would have met with the senior team, the CEO and directors of Flow Jamaica Telecommunications Company, to advocate for more reliable internet service so that you can have access to better internet provisions. Also, would have effectively spearheaded a data plan program for tertiary students by supporting students who could not afford it. Assisted in the effort by Grace Kennedy to have over 200 tertiary students accessing tablets and laptops and other devices. Assisted the Rujan Foundation to provide care packages for students and schools in need. Personally, taking the time to tutor various subjects at the CAPE and CSEC level to help students, and over 2,500 students were helped in this program. I stand here today on a record of performance and on a record of service to Jamaica. Service has always been something that means a lot to me, something that I'm passionate about. And what I want to do is to utilize the various experiences that I've gathered to make JUTS better and to work for all of our students. But today we're here to make that decision, which candidate we'll vote for. And that's based on who has the experience, who has the better vision or for the organization and for you, the students, but also who has the plan that is COVID-19 sensitive, that is relevant, and that can help you, the students of Jamaica. One of the first plans I want to look on is providing devices for students without access. In the first 60 days of the next JUTS administration, if I'm supposed to serve as president, we are going to have high-level stakeholder meetings with government and private sector entities to see how we can get more tablets and laptops in the hands of our students, just like how I helped with Grace Kennedy donation. At each One Help One food drive for those students that are most vulnerable, students that are currently suffering. Now, where over 100,000 people have lost their jobs since the pandemic. This is more than likely students that have lost jobs. Or it could be a case where these are parents of tertiary students. So we must provide. And this will be done by partnering with our various supermarket chains and having food packages delivered to all institutions. JUTS Education Grant Program will be for tertiary students, and this will be done where we're going to be partnering with private sector entities to roll out a plan where we can assist more students, especially now where a lot of our institutions have cut funding for scholarships and grants. JUTS Internship Program, where we'll provide the various avenues, various opportunities that are there, students can access from our website, where they will have all internships in one place, both private sector and government internships, and we can look on, okay, which one works best for students, and students will have a clear idea as it relates to what are the tasks that will be performed. But also, just to go further, by seeing how we can partner with our various entities to get more internships for students. Also, we'll be having a Student Entrepreneurs Expo, and this will be to highlight and showcase our various entrepreneurs, our businessmen and women, our creative young people, our agricultural students, and other persons from the various sectors to showcase their projects and can seek funding from investors and also revenues from consumers. A big plan of mine is to ensure that we provide technical support to our local councils. We have to ensure that we empower local councils so that they are better able to serve you, the students of Jamaica, whether by looking on providing legal support and aid for our councils in need of constitutional reform, or also looking at how we can assist tertiary institutions, councils, and guilds as it relates to their finances, and fundraising activities, and many other projects to come. On March 23rd, fellow presidents, fellow students, make the right choice. Vote Chadrachri. I'm here for the students of Jamaica and nothing else. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ashley, thank you so much for your heartening words. And I'm sure that our electorate has found something within them that they want more information on. We'll now move on to our next presidential candidate, and our final speaker for the evening is Christina Williams.
Excuse me, I'm being panned to the side. Right there. Good day, tertiary student leaders, as well as tertiary students. I know that the eloquent Najee would have introduced me, but there was something that he didn't mention in his introduction. My name is Christina, and I'm a proud Portlander. I grew up in a wooden one-bedroom structure in Portland, Jamaica, with an outside bathroom. And when it was time for me to go to university, we only had 2 guarantors in the house, and of course it went to my brother, and so I had to find a scholarship. When I got it, it was not enough. And so I went to university with faith, 2 pounds of sugar, 2 pounds of sugar, 2 pounds of flour, 3 mackerel, I remember that was just yesterday, in my bag. And I went to the university to use education a way to empower myself and to empower others. In the first semester, I was told that I would have to pay or switch my degree or leave. And so while I came to UWI passionate about doing law, I had to switch out of law into social sciences. In October 2018, I was once again asked to leave the university. This time I said, listen, I'm not going home now, I have to go with my degree. And so I went and I begged the UWI headquarters for an opportunity. And instead of giving me a blight, they actually gave me a scholarship on the spot because of my nation building. But when I went home and I sat on my knees and I was praying to God to thank him for the scholarship, a spirit came over me and said, how are you going to give back? How are you going to serve? And in that very moment, I made a covenant to God and to myself that if given any kind of platforms, I will always serve. And I will never be silent in the face of any adversities affecting students across the length and breadth of Jamaica. I know that my story is not unique. Many of you here watching this video is going through similar, if not worse, challenges, whether you're at the community college level, teacher college, main campus, or satellite campus. And when your back is against the wall as a servant, leader to your students as guild president or union president, etc., and you have fought a good fight and you cannot finish the race, the question must be asked, who are you going to turn to in the middle of a crisis? The answer I put forward today, very humbly, is I'm asking you to trust a little in Christina, to trust in the crisis manager. What are the plans that I have for you today? So I've heard ideas going around about an ambassador program. Ladies and gentlemen, you are already ambassadors of JUTS because you're all members of JUTS. And so I don't want to create any kind of ambassadorship program where you just wear something on your chest. I want to empower you to actually lead and to serve. And so I am proposing the Servant Leader Incubator, where over 1,000 students will be trained in the areas of negotiation, arbitration, policy, of course, and leadership, fundraising, etc. Because I want to create an army. Imagine this, guys. Crisis and go on and everything happen bad, and we need to fight against it. We need persons who are empowered. I don't want to be your voice. I actually want to amplify your voice so we can go farther together. We talk about another issue of devices. No, it's not an idea that I have that I want to implement. I don't want to meet with anybody because guess what? I have done this already. I started a device hub at the UWI Mona while I was guild president. Went as far as have a partnership with the National Library System where students could literally go and borrow a tablet like a book. I want to extend that program nationally, where all of you watching this right now who need a tablet, look at who want to device you. Did you get any? You probably said no. right? And so I want to put a tablet in each needy student hand. You don't have to come here, you will come get it, or your CMU, or your CTC, or your EDNA. You can go to your library nearest to you and get your tablet. Then we move to financing of tertiary education, and no, wait on this point. Very important, especially in COVID-19, everybody's unemployed. As JUTS correctly said, 100,000 people unemployed. I was recently awarded a global award in the COVID-19 category because of my work during COVID-19 to help students. And with that global award, I have been given global partnerships and global sponsorships. I'm not just going to rely on private sector because guess what, guys? They are fatigued. They are tired. They've given so much resources. So we can't just rely on private sector alone to ask for everything. So through this global sponsorship that I've gotten with this award, I'm going to set up a financial safety net for students. You can get your scholarships, you can get your bursaries that you speak of, as well as to get financing for the tertiary governance bodies who are not adequately funded or getting no funding at all. Not about what I want to do, it's about what has already been done and I want to continue to do. We move again to talk about SLB and trying to cut fees on all of that. But guess what, guys? Even though we want SLB interest rate to go down and we're going to advocate for it, or we'll advocate for it, we need other sustainable measures. That is why I want to work on a long-term plan of an education trust. Probably I've heard it other places, not my idea alone. Other people have talked about it as well, where parents can start putting down their money. You as well can start putting down their money, and there will be a match system when it is time for you to actually have your particular degree and you want to go for it. I want to use the final few minutes of my presentation to clarify a few things. So a concern was raised about my manifesto in terms of things that I said that I have done and what exactly was the specific contributions that I made. I want to start off with zero-rated access for tertiary students or tertiary online platforms. March 14, 2020, you can look at my Twitter page. I saw the Prime Minister tweet that they have zero-rated ministry pages, no data plan needed. Because I've never been silent in the face of injustice and inequalities against students, I actually asked the Prime Minister and said, listen, you have done this for your ministries, please do this for students. I also at MOEYE, right where we are, the ministries page, as well as Flow and Digicel. After I did that and that went viral, we actually worked with the guild, collaborative efforts, a team effort to do a media frenzy, to the point where while I was on a program, my teammate and I, Mr. Ethel Williams, if you're there, big up yourself, while we were on a call together, the head of Flow actually called the program, TVJ, the morning program, Smile Jamaica, and said, all right, Christina, we have seen it everywhere, we know what going, let's have a meeting. But while I was doing that with the Women Guild, JUTS, which is the body in charge of advancing issues on a national level. And as first vice president, I was on JUTS, I'm on JUTS, and I'm working with JUTS as well. They advance it even farther. You know, together, we go farther together. So, Mr. President here, effective Mr. Everton Ratchery, would have advanced to ensure that, you know, we went to the ministry and we got it zero-rated. Really quickly, work and travel. Once again, JUTS started, I said to JUTS, as first vice president, listen, we need to advance this issue for students, to the point where we're on interviews and we're almost being threatened by the CEOs of these respective agencies because they thought, how dare us come and ask for refunds. And so it was a collaborative effort. I would never take credit for anything that I have done, because even at the UE Mona Guild, I've always said the greatest guild together achieve these things, and the JUTS family together achieve these things. Ladies and gentlemen, through a union, we can be a solution. I don't just preach inclusivity, and I actually practice it, which I'll talk a little bit about more when you ask me your questions. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from our two presidential candidates and the questions are pouring in. And I must say that I truly believe that we definitely have some of the best representatives of Jamaica's young people here in this room today, as they show you why they are the candidates you should be voting for. So I'll begin with Ms. Williams' question for you. This one was pre-prepared. So Ms. Williams, you've been a member of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students for 4 years now. What are some of your major accomplishments achieved during this tenure, and what has your working dynamic been with the members of the JUTS Council in these accomplishments?
Thank you so much. It's a very good question. So let me start off by the first time I sat on JUTS, I was actually called by the then president to come in and to help with the publications committee as a COPT member. So I was not elected or anything like that. I was actually called to serve, as I've always done, because he saw my capabilities and my capabilities, as you said, right? And then moving now, I ran for office for the first time for first vice president. And My greatest accomplishments, I would say, as I said before, the collaborative effort working with Mr. Ratchery and the team with the zero-rated access of online learning platforms, as well as working collaboratively with the team to work on work and travel programs. You have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that my role as advocacy and policy is really to be a backdoor person, to be in the dirt, working in the darkest rooms, putting together the policy strategy to go forward. Right? So it's not about me being on the front, it's about what did I contribute in those meetings that you probably never saw. And it's about tweeting and posting everything on Instagram. It's about my work. And you'd have seen the 100 website zero rated that we did collaboratively. You'd have seen the refunds given, as Mr. President spoke about earlier, collaboratively. And those are my greatest accomplishments. And the team, because I've always served, I've always given my opinions in a constructive way. That's how our relationship has been. Very constructive and very, I would say, productive. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Mr. Rattray, over to you. So, Mr. Rattray, many consider you a neophyte in the tertiary student leadership arena. What can you say to persuade believers of that rhetoric, that you are indeed the right man for the job?
Thank you so much for that question, Ajay. You know, since the age of 16, I would have dedicated my life to serving students, whether it be from high school straight up to now. And there's no personal benefit when it comes to student leadership, whether you're in it or you're not. So it must be a case where you have passion for it. And that's why I've been here for 5 years, fighting for students, fighting for, just to give them more access, give them more opportunities so that they can empower themselves. So, I don't have experience serving on JUTS. I've never served on JUTS before in my life. But certainly, I've served on several boards, several committees, several organizations. Currently serve as president of even my own organization, an NGO. And every step of the way, I've respected the basic principles of leadership. It's not just about one man. It's about a team. It's about how do we come together and work together. Because no man is an island. And if we come together, we can be stronger. So my message here today is that, I don't have any experience on JUTS, but certainly I have JUTS. I have the best interest for JUTS here. I have the best interest for tertiary students. And I am committed to working for every single one of you. And also what I want to say before I finish is that my ambition and my personal vision for JUTS is that we can go way further. We can go way further. And I commend and I credit the administrations from before. I big up President Everton actually, I big up the team. We can do way more, and it's just for us to work together so that we can build a stronger JUTS for you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rattray. The following questions you both will have the pleasure of answering. The first one is, prior to the last decades, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students would have been very active in the tertiary landscape, which would have seen greater support coming from its constituents. Now, the outgoing executive has had ambitions to rebrand and to reintroduce the organization in Jamaica. Presently, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students is not seen as very relevant to the tertiary education landscape. What impact do you think this has had on our relations with our constituents, and how will you change this dynamic in your tenure? I began with Ms. Williams the last time, so I think I'll begin with Mr. Rattray.
Okay. So I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of students, up to this point, don't know what JUTS is. Unless you are probably wanting to run for a position, then you find out what JUTS is, or you're a president of your own local council. We have to change that, because just like how teachers across the island, they know what their national association body is, which is JTA. Our students must be able to call right off the bat JUTS. So it's all going to be about how are we going to market JUTS, and that has to be, we are young people. So that means we're going to have to invest, we're going to have to put in more effort as it relates to our social media, our integrated marketing skills and our approach, so that we can have more students that know what JUTS is. But also an initiative that I want to put in place is to have JUTS student ambassadors that will be across the length and breadth of Jamaica in the various institutions. And yes, I know Christina would say you're all ambassadors, aren't you? But I'm saying that we want to have a program tailored and designed to have students designated particularly for advertising JUTS in their space, for marketing JUTS, and if we utilize both the program and integrated marketing skills, which several of you are coming to the table with, as we advance and move into a new age, then certainly we'll be able to market JUTS better. And if we are better able to market JUTS and to build that brand, then we can certainly get more support and partnerships between the private sector and JUTS, government support, and other entities, global and regional support.
Thank you, Mr. Ratcher. Ms. Williams, your retort.
A retort, just my contribution, kind sir. Okay, so they said the P in politics stand for perception, and we like to create and curate, using the content management terminologies, create and curate perceptions. I don't want to create any perceptions or any false impressions. I think JUTS we have a long way to go, but when I look at what we have done, and like what President Archer just spoke about earlier, he spoke about the national security policy, the first of its kind that President Archer would have championed. I mean, when he came to meetings, he always talk about the policy, and it's the policy of Mr. Archer because we have to get this for the students. So what I want to do if I'm given the opportunity to serve is want to advance that, because it's very important. But aside from that, and talking about advertising JUTS, let me tell you something. I believe that if with my team on JUTS, if we empower you to serve your students, if we have our servant leader incubator and you're there and you're getting support and you're getting skilled, if we have the safety that I spoke of where we're going to give you scholarships and bursaries plus give you funding for your governance bodies, if we are there with you when the admin tell you no, you can't do it, and we say yes because we're here behind you, I don't think we even have to rely so much on any kind of marketing per se, because the work will speak for itself. And that's what I want us to get to. I know it's 2021, everybody's online and we're all talking about do some IGTV live and all of that. And that is important because I believe in the cyber, in the virtual space. And I big up whoever go win, deputy comes, and whoever go win, director comes, will do that. But let me tell you something. I am the president. I am not a communications person. That's not my job here. My job here is to serve you at the head to ensure that real issues of advocacy are put forward. So if I am ensuring that advocacy is actually done, I don't need to be emphasizing so much on any marketing strategy, because the work will prove itself. And that's where I want us to get to a place when you have issues around financing tertiary education, when there's a breakout of COVID in your school and you don't know who to call, and you can't call Minister of Health, you can call the crisis manager Christina, who is serving you as president of JUTS. We can work together to achieve all these things. So I don't want it to become a marketing thing about advancing the image of JUTS. I want it more to become work. The work speaks for itself, as they always say, and everything else will come after. And I hope you'll work with me, please, ladies and gentlemen, because action over more talk, and we need to do this together.
All right, Ms. Williams, thank you. We'll now head into our social media questions. The following questions have been compiled between the Instagram, into YouTube, and the Zoom meeting chat room. The first one is as follows. COVID-19 has adversely impacted student attitudes towards learning. This is thought to have attributed to the change in the learning mechanisms, i.e. face-to-face to online learning. So as a result of this, we have seen an island-wide decrease in the academic achievement of our students in terms of GPAs, and an increasing apathy towards tertiary education. What are your plans, if at all, to combat this growing problem? So I think I'll start.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Nunes. So you spoke about academic achievement and the downward spiral, as well as overall apathy towards learning. So the first thing I am proposing, right, is that there needs to be, and it's funny because there's a guidance document I would have developed called COVID-19 that I would have submitted to UNDP, and that proposal, actually an awarding winning proposal now. And in that proposal, I would have sent to the UN that we need to ensure that there's support for universities. So yes, we have the technical support where they help you how to utilize the devices and everything, but there needs to be a support to ensure that you're actually engaged. And I actually looked at UTech. UTech actually has a system in place. And big up yourself, Khalil. Actually has a system in place now where they track the engagement to see if you're actually going on and you're logging on and you're engaging. You will probably want that because I'm a student there and I know that students disappear all the time from class, but we want to ensure that that happens. So there's a tracking system to match and manage your engagement. The next thing about we should help with apathy as well. With academic achievement, there also needs to be academic support. So we have ASUs in a lot of these schools, that ASU need to go virtual as well. And then I want to say this about politically incorrect. A lot of these curriculum that we're using was never meant for online learning, and that's just a fact. So you continuously putting this thing and you're forcing this thing on me in an online setting, it will never work because it was never meant to be taught online. It has to be taught in the classroom. So I dare to say, as president, if I'm elected, I'm going to challenge these administrations, wrapping up, to say, listen, you need to restructure your curriculum. And I want to big up UCC at this time because they did just that. And as well as that, they also chopped the fees in two, 50%, so they both did it with the content as well as with the fees, and we need to get there for everybody.
All right, Mr. Rattray.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Several of us, we face issues with online learning. And as I said before, I'm a student just like you. So I understand the fatigue that's there. We're at home, we're looking in four walls, and it doesn't seem as if the pandemic is going to end. What we need to do as it relates from JUTS' point of view and standpoint, we need to provide a program that will be tailored and designed for helping students as it relates to academic support. The University of Technology and several other institutions have implemented programs as it relates to academic support units, so that they can support students so that we can get those GPAs. As a matter of fact, several institutions have a Mission 4.0 program. So if we as JUTS, we can implement a program that can widespread get traction within our various spaces and across all institutions, then I'm pretty sure we're supposed to see an increase in that. But what I want to do, I want to implore you, the students of Jamaica, that we've got this. I want you to understand that, we can get over this. We're going to get through this. We're going to get through this together. So please support Chat for Change, because Chat for Change is all about ensuring that we can put your best foot forward by putting in the necessary programs that you need so that you can better able to advance yourself academically.
All right, thank you. Our next social media question was from Zoom. This person asks, how is the idea of an internship program mutually exclusive to the existing NYS and government programs and internships? How is the idea of an internship of a program for JUTS mutually exclusive to the existing NYS and government programs for internships? Saratray.
Yeah, thanks for that question. Not to say that we're going to reinvent the wheel here. What my suggestion is that a lot of students don't know about internship opportunities out there. What we need to do is to provide, from JUTS standpoint, and this, I don't see this as something that's outside of JUTS portfolio or mandate, but certainly for sure, JUTS can provide a platform that can have like a hub where all students can find all the various internships and the various opportunities that's there, and they can apply and they can register for those. But also, we can go even a step further. We are a competent executive team, and I'm pretty sure we can find avenues in which we can boost internship opportunities. Work with our government, work with the government entities to ensure that students are not just doing paperwork, but ensuring that they're doing meaningful internships that matches their skill set and their career path, what they want to do. And also working with the private sector, which has always been supportive, but it's also us to tap into that JUTS brand, utilize JUTS brand, and let us get more internships for our students. That can make a difference.
All right, thank you. Your contribution.
That question, right? So that was not my policy proposal, but what I would add to it is to say, you see, in a crisis, you have limited resources. Everybody fights over the same little piece of resource. And so as a crisis manager and someone who has been trained in risk assessment and management, I know it's important for us to look at what's already there and how we can craft it and reshape it to put it for what we need it now. And so there are two things I am proposing. I've already spoken about one of them already, is about scholarship grants mapping as well as internship mapping. So what we're really doing, we're creating literally a national map where we're looking at what currently exists from all these different institutions, and then we're going to look at what institutions are not receiving the benefit. For example, I met VTDI, both campuses, and they're saying to me that they almost get like 1 or 0% of any of the scholarships. They don't qualify. You look at all these technical scholarships, they don't qualify. And I'm saying, what? But you're like one of the premier technical institutions, and they don't. So in that case, I would go to NCB, for example, and say, you already have a technical scholarship. please allow VTDI to be considered eligible. And you see how quickly that can happen in a meeting. I go into a meeting today, I leave it, and you have a scholarship available instead of going through all the rigmarole of having to call all these different persons, pitch a new idea to them. So I am not saying that we won't go further and farther to get additional internships, but I'm saying for now, because it's a crisis and students are at home and can't access internships, I'm going to do a scholarship and grants and internships mapping for now. And after we have seen how that works, we can always go back to the drawing table and advance that a little bit more. Thank you.
All right, our next question. It reads, in light of the economic difficulties, how will you be working towards non-sponsored degrees in various universities quoted in USD? In light of the economic difficulties, how will you be working towards non-sponsored degrees in various universities quoted in USD? Ms. Williams?
Yes, if this is a UE Mona student, ask this one. Big up yourself if that's the case. I feel this is. But if it's not, whoever it is, big up yourself as well. So let me tell you, I'm not going to give you a perfect answer right now because I am a crisis manager and I believe in research. I'm not just going to give you something to make you feel good about it. It takes research. But while I was guild president, one of the things that we learned about these non-sponsored USD programs is that these programs were never supposed to be offered, quote unquote, by the particular university. And so it became the responsibility of that, either the university or of that particular country rather, to accept the burden of paying. And by virtue of that, the burden would shift over to students. So for example, the law students at the UE Mona, for example, and the non-sponsored med students would fall under this category. What I would say as a way to help with this, I'm not going to promise that I'm going to get non-sponsored USD programs into Jamaican dollars. I would be lying to you today if I did that because this has been in the works for years. What I would say as an interim is that we need to ensure that there are more scholarships and bursaries being given towards these particular programs. Because, for example, when you look at law, there are very few scholarships that allow you to take one if you're a law student. Same thing for medicine as well. Same thing for engineering. So we need to have more scholarships and bursaries available for these students. After we have that in place, I know it's all about phase one. Phase two, I'd have to go to the governments now. It's not going to be just a UE or an admin thing. It has to be a government thing to say, what can we do about subsidizing at some level, some amount of students? So it won't be all to begin with. I will not lie about that. Let's start off with 50, see how it works. Subsidize a chunk off of it. Just as how we see other countries, like Antigua, for example, their students, when they come over to Jamaica, they pay maybe like 40% of their tuition, even though they're doing non-sponsored USD programs. So that's an example right there to have some further subsidies for those students. But that answer will have to come more in the future, admittedly.
All right. Mr. Rattray.
Thank you. Again, it's a very complex issue. It's not an issue I think can be fully discussed given the time limit that we have here. But certainly, for sure, I agree. I believe that non-sponsored programs is a big problem, it's a big issue, because I myself, I'm a law student, and so I have to be paying $1.46 million. And as you know, that increases, that fluctuates based on the currency in Jamaican terms. So that's not an issue that is going to be solved overnight because, as you know, these institutions have had this policy in place for a very long time. But my personal position on it is that if you're a Jamaican university catering to majority of Jamaican citizens who are tertiary students, then you should have your fees quoted in Jamaican dollars. But as I said, it's a meeting that I think we need to have more with as relates to our administrations that are currently putting in place these policies, but also looking at how we can expand grant opportunities, how we can expand scholarship opportunities under the programs that I've mentioned today, so that we can see a reduction, or we can, as much as possible, subsidize those costs. That's not something that, as I said, not something I'm going to come on here like a politician and promise you, oh, I can fix it. What I'm here to do is to ensure that we can mitigate and we can alleviate this issue as much as possible.
All right, thank you, Sir Rattray. I am being urged to remind you all that as we wrap up, you have 1 minute to respond to the question, so that you can keep it and truncate to the responses to that time.
Students deserve more, man.
So, next question. Are there any plans for a skills-based training program for students? So are there any plans in any of your manifestos or during your tenure for skills-based training for students? I'll begin with you, Sir Rattray.
Thanks for that. Not sure. So yeah, as it relates to skill-based training, I believe wholeheartedly that as many students supposed to learn a skill as much as possible, no matter if you're doing law, whether you're doing nursing or whatever it is. All of us should have we should have access, greater access to training, special skill training programs. And that's something certainly that JUTS can take up the mantle. We can look at how we can advocate, look on probably VDPI, vocational training, and to see how we can probably expand opportunities for students. So that's something that I will be committed to.
Right? Ms. Williams.
Thank you. As I said before, you have to limit resources and you're trying to prioritize, but definitely for skills-based training. So I'd met with Edna, Vicky myself, Mr. Broody, Mr. President, and I'd met with VTDI, both campuses, Carlos and Shannon, and both of them lamented at length about the fact that they can't have any kinds of internships or anything right now as more skilled or skills-based type programs. So while we're talking about skill-based training and getting that incorporated, before I even get there, I want to ensure that these current institutions, the VTDIs, the EDNA, the other institutions that have technical aspects to their programs, that your students are actually being given internships, particularly now, because everybody's being told, oh, it's online, we can't accommodate it because your work requires you to be here physically, but there must be a way we can go against this. Innovation is at our fingertips right now. So that's what I want to focus on. In fact, I actually helped Edna in crafting something for the Ministry of Gender and Culture to see how they could get some virtual internships. So skills-based training is definitely there, but I want to get them into internships first.
All right, thank you. Another question. Give your views on the following statement. With schools having online classes, we should not have face-to-face. We should rather have face-to-face exams. With schools having online classes, my apologies, I haven't read it correctly. With schools having online classes, why should we have face-to-face exams? So with schools having online classes, why should we have face-to-face exams? Ms. Williams, I'll begin this one.
Thank you. So I know for a fact that all the members of TCJ, the Teachers and Teacher Colleges Association, that you have gone through this, because last semester you'd have had to do your exams face-to-face, physically, even though you had online exams. I want to send apologies to you right now, even though it was, of course, not anyone's fault here at this table, but my heart goes out to you. And just would have fought teeth and nails at that meeting. President Archie was there, other members of the team. We fought teeth and nail, or tooth and nail, against that particular policy. And I don't agree with the statement. And so what we had to do to help out was to ask that you get free housing on campus, so you didn't have to traverse between different parishes, so that you wouldn't have to, in order to facilitate those physical exams. But let me tell you, if you look at my manifesto, I talked about proactive meetings with TCJ, CCJ, and UCJ. And so I want to ensure that before they even talk about any kind of face-to-face exams, we'll already met with them before the semester even starts and had that out the window. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Williams. Mr. Rattree, your contribution.
Yes. It's a problem, it's a concern that I had as a regular student at UWI when I heard about it in the news that there were colleges that were going to have face-to-face exams when you had majority of the semester or the whole semester online. But I do believe, and I can say this with confidence, that JUTS would have done what it could as it relates to advocacy. Obviously, this is something that I'm not comfortable with, and I'll say it plain and straight as day. If you're having online courses and you're having online platforms as it relates to regular teaching and learning, then you need to have online exams. And especially in a pandemic of this magnitude, a pandemic where we're seeing the highest positivity rates, we're seeing now where more persons are catching the virus, more persons are dying. Our position as it relates to JUTS position has to be the advocacy for online exams and online classes in the interim. And if that's not so, then you're going to have to ensure that we boost advocacy.
All right. And ladies and gentlemen, we are at the ultimate question for this afternoon as we bring the curtains to a close. The question reads, what will you do for theological students who are not eligible for government scholarships, nor PATH program grants, nor internships, who are faced with financial constraints? What will you do for the theological students who are not eligible for government scholarships, nor the PATH program grants, nor internships, who are still faced with financial constraints. It's as if we have a trifecta of difficulties affecting these students or this cohort. So I think I'll throw this out to whoever wants to go first. That's the final question. Or perhaps give them as we give the chances there. I wish again to thank the PhD students that they are providing studio. Oh, I've been fed wrong information here regarding the videography and streaming services today. Their CEO Calvin Brown is a member of the Jamaican Union of Tertiary Students, and we're forever grateful for your efforts today, Mr. Brown. Definitely. Thank you so much. So with the aura of celebration that is now in the room, I think we can now proceed with the question. So who would like to go first? Ms. Williams, you seem ready.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Thank you for that question. Just to clarify, this is the final question. We won't be able to speak again after this.
Yes, so I think we can perhaps give them
Closing.
Well, you can give. I'll allow you to give a 1 minute closing remark.
At the end. All right. No problem. All right. Just wanted to ensure. Okay. So.
Oh, and your question to each other.
Oh.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. All right. So I'm aware of this issue because UTC, United Theological College, is actually a part of. It's a satellite campus of UWI. So while I was president, I would have worked with that team. And now it's Mr. Hardware as the president there, and I don't know if he's watching this, but I want to commend you and your team for what you're doing there. We have also Bethel Bible College of Bethlehem Moravian, and these three, and I think there are other campuses as well who have similar issues. What I would propose in this regard is that we literally just have to throw that entire thing out the window. It sounds funny, but it's true, because there's no way you can be contributing to nation building, to the very moral development of your society, the moral fabric, through your theological programs, and you're going to say that there's no way for you to qualify for any kind of support. So without me saying I'm going to give you a scholarship and a bursary through what I'm talking about with the financial safety net, that's a given already, that you'll have stake your claim to that. But outside of that, I'm definitely going to take that up as a priority of mine, to go to these different institutions and say, listen, you need to have some kind of bursary, even if it's $50,000, I saw the 10 seconds, to allow one of these students, because they literally contribute to the moral makeup of our society. The church is one of the cornerstones of society.
Agreed. Thank you. Mr. Radford.
Thank you again. You know, the whole conversation today has to be based on equity. And to be honest with you, once an issue affects a set of tertiary students, then it should affect all of us. All of us here in the room and all of us that are watching. Imagine it's a case where you don't have access to government grants, you don't have access to various bursaries. That's unfortunate. So in the first 60 days of presidency, if I'm to be elected, we will form a committee to investigate this issue further. I will make recommendations as it relates to meeting with the various stakeholders, meeting with the institution boards to see what we can do. This is a complex issue again, and this is something that has been there for a pretty long time, so it's not something that will happen overnight. But certainly work will be started in the first 60 days if I'm president. And just to state further, that I believe, or getting the 10 seconds wrap up, but certainly for sure, it's something that I'm going to be committed to work with.
All right, and as we close this session, or almost bring the session to a close, I'm going to afford the candidates an opportunity to ask each other one final question. I want you to put great thought into this question, because this could be the question that determines the next president for this student development organization. And so I'll give you a minute to catch your breath. Thus far, we have heard from the secretariat candidates, we've heard from the vice presidential candidates, and we've heard from, well, the first and second vice presidential candidates. For the general secretary, we heard from Mr. Stephen Anderson, who put forward plans on what he would do as the general secretary. We also heard from, well, we should have heard from Ms. Tony Townsend, who was unavoidably absent. For the second vice president of national and international affairs, we heard from Mr. Deshaun Cook. And unfortunately, we could not have heard from Mr. Ravel Cook, both from the University of the West Indies. For the first vice president debate, we heard from Ms. Marlene Campbell and Ms. Suyan Thompson, both who put forward plans on what their policy, advocacy, research, and development would resemble if they take office in the incumbent elections. And finally, we are now hearing from our presidential candidates, Mr. Chad Rattray and Ms. Christina Williams, both lawyers, or aspiring lawyers, who the hearing now ask each other this final, ultimate question. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned into the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students annual or biannual election debates as we hear now from our presidential candidates. Which one would you like to go first? Ms. Williams?
It's fine. I'm always in the hot seat, but you know, presidency making, we have to become accustomed to the hot seat.
Agreed.
So the question I have for Mr. Rattray is this. So I know you have served over the years. I mean, NSSC, you were there, you know, younger than me, and I was there, and so we know each other for a while, right? And you even reached out to me the other night and big me up and say, you know, all the best tomorrow. So outside of this, guys, we are pari, we're good, just to be clear, right? So the question I have for you, though, is that I'm sure you can understand the space that in tertiary advocacy, there are lots of technical aspects to it. You have to understand the board makeup and the setup. You have to understand the different jargon technicalities because you have to go to the highest level possible to advocate. We move outside the realm of just passion and charity and giving. We move now into a space where you have to be informed. You have to understand different institutions and their unique issues. So, seeing that you have never served in a tertiary body before at any level, the question is, what transferable skills do you have to handle this mighty task ahead?
Thank you for that question, Christina. We do share a cordial relationship. But what I will say, what I will say is that I have served on several committees and several national boards before. And it's not a case where I based on the question, and I'll probably pick up a statement as well, but based on the question being asked, I have served on several platforms. And I'm not just about charity, people. I'm here as somebody who has dedicated my life to serving students. And it's, okay, charity does help, but also we need to look at, okay, advocacy and policy. And I do have experience in that as well. So have I ever served as relates to on the executive of JUTS before? No, I've never. But certainly my fresh mind, fresh ideas that I'll be bringing to the table, and fresh insights is going to be used very crucially as we move forward with JUTS, as we rebrand and make JUTS stronger.
All right, Mr. Rattray. And now, to close the curtains, or almost, your question to your fellow presidential candidate.
Yeah. Christina. So you'd have served JUTS for what, 4 years?
Right.
And you would have served as vice president for 2 years. Based on what I'm hearing today, there are lots of initiatives that would have been done from the national body and the president himself, and of course the team, because every president needs a team that's there to support. But in your portfolio and your capacity, because you'd have served as vice president for 2 years,
Correct.
can you tell us what are some of the initiatives that you would have done, meaning that you'd have spearheaded from your portfolio to help our councils in that capacity?
Thank you. All right. Great question. Thank you so much, Mr. Rattray. So,
That is fine.
right, with Everton Chad. All right, good. So, so to answer that question, as I said before, and I mentioned it before, the first vice president role of advocacy, policy, research, and development. In fact, I've actually said this to Rattray. It's so close to the role of the president because both roles have to advance the advocacy and the policy of the institution. And so what I have done instead in my tenure is to take a backseat to work with councils privately. So one of the things I can tell you is that I've helped 7 councils with their constitution, right? And we have maybe 2 of them now who are on the second leg of helping with their constitutions. And approximately around 15 councils I would have met with just this year alone. I'm not talking about even the first year, just this year alone, 15 councils before campaign and anything started, any presidential, anything came into play to help them with what was happening with their respective bodies. That's why I have so much wealth of information. And you saw I was able to break down the issues and able to note to you specifically what is happening in each issue. This doesn't come through some kind of election campaign, it comes through work. And so what I have done is to support the councils, have them ask me what they would, or ask them what they need, and I support them at that level. Because you first serve before you lead.
All right, and we've heard from our presidential candidate. I'm going to give them an opportunity now to just pen their closing remarks, which will last no longer than 1 minute. They have 1 minute just to speak to the electorate for one final time, because this is the last time you'll speak to them in a formal capacity ahead of Tuesday's elections. And Wednesday, when we will hear, or perhaps Thursday morning, when we will hear the brand new president of this esteemed organization. Today, we have definitely witnessed some of Jamaica's finest youth leaders, those who have put forward themselves to lead the organization and to lead it with a certain level of perspicacity and leadership and commitment towards Jamaica's youth and the issues and plights that we service, in particular our students in our education sector. And so I will give Ms. Williams, no, I think you just close that side, Mr. Rattray, as I will speak to the students and to those who are possibly voting for you or who want to vote for you, why they should make that move and entreat them to vote for you on election day.
My fellow Jamaican students, now we're faced with a great decision. On March 23rd, the presidents of your various councils, guilds, and unions will vote for the next president of the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students. The decision is in your hands. So whether you're going to decide for leadership that has been there for years, not to say that we're criticizing that, but we want to ensure that the persons that we have serving us are effective in their mandate. We need to ensure that we build a JUTS that is stronger together, that we are united. And what I bring to the table, I don't understand as one leader. In every institution and organization I've served in, I've treated every single person as a part of the team. We're going to build an inclusive JUTS that can stand strong, united, and ready to tackle the national major issues of the students across Jamaica. On election day, vote Chad Rattray.
Thank you, Mr. Rattray. Ms. Williams, your closing remarks.
In my final minutes talking to you, I want to put aside all the politics, fancy flyers, posters, all of that. Because the truth is, you deserve more. And the truth is, your very life as a student is at risk. COVID-19, less than 20% of us are currently enrolled in tertiary institutions. And with the many unemployment and all these different issues of lackluster online learning, arbitrary teaching and grading, we have our students literally falling out of school. They can't fulfill their potential. I have come here and I've dissected the issues. None were too complex because I see issues as opportunities for solutions. And I broke down each of them and I showed the solutions that I have and the plans I have for the future. While I may be here and I may be experienced and I have some age on me, I don't hide that, but I also have youth and vigor. Because yes, you may look at me, you think, how old is she? I'm 22 years of age, I'm still very young. I'm just 1 year older than Mr. Ratchet here. But yes, I have over 10 years of experience as a student leader. And so I want to bring my youth and my new insight, as well as my experience, a perfect blend to give you what you deserve in a time as a crisis. Vote Christina, vote a crisis manager, vote for someone you are sure will have your back. Not just because I said I do, but because I've already done. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, those were our presidential candidates, Ms. Christina Williams from UWI-Mona and Mr. Chad Rattray, also from UWI-Mona, who have pursued or are pursuing both law degrees. We are almost at the end of today's proceedings. We've heard from our Chief Administrative Officer, the General Secretary. We've also heard from the National Representative on all issues for tertiary education, that is our second Vice President for National and International Affairs. We've heard from the head of the Constitutional Committee, whose aim is to create those policy guidelines, which is our first Vice President of Policy Advocacy, Research and Development. And we've just now heard from the head of the entire executive, of president. I believe that you've heard enough today to make your decision on who you will be casting that vote for. Whose ballot shall you take when you head into that voting poll, or click on the link to head into the voting poll, who you will be voting for? And I hope that you'd have heard them and been able to challenge them on the issues that you or find important and that you believe are critical to your development and holistic development at that as student leaders. As we bring the curtains to a close, I am going to now call on the returning officer for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students, Mr. Javon Reed, to offer the closing remarks. Oh, in the spirit of candidacy and camaraderie, I'm going to invite both presidential candidates to not shake hands, but to rub shoulders in lieu of the physical activity.
Rub elbows.
And I'm going to excuse myself from the program.
Good afternoon, everyone out there in the virtual world. Good afternoon to representatives of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, respective delegates and candidates in this election. We are happy that we have had the opportunity to share in this debate this afternoon. Now, the task is mine, and the great pleasure and honor has been ours to hear the perspectives of the candidates this afternoon. Now, it is a pandemic, yes? And we laud efforts of those who have decided that they would have accepted the call to offer themselves to accept a greater responsibility at this time. It is a noble effort on your part, and we are grateful for that. I am pleased, again, to have heard the arguments and proposals by the candidates today, and they have debated critical points in our existence as tertiary level students, ranging from, the organization of the administration, affordable tertiary education, and the massive galvanization of this great movement. Now, withstanding that, all of that would have been wasted if we do not take the time to consider the proposals that have been made today. Before I proceed, I will take the opportunity to explain how voting will be done. Now, the mechanism used to facilitate voting is a first past the post system, wherein we'll be using an electoral college. Fancy term. How it works is that each tertiary institution will have one vote, and that one vote will be represented by the president of that student-led body, or a delegate that the president so decides would make that vote for the institution. Now, my suggestion to those that have been listening in this afternoon is that, having heard the proposals from your candidates or from our candidates, you are now at liberty to engage your presidents, share your sentiments with them, call them, text them, bombard them, test them with your views on the issues that best reflect your challenge. Let them know who you think best represents your sentiment, and then thereafter leaving it to the role of their conscience to allow for them to make the most opportune and most favorable decision for their body that they represent. Now, I will present to you at this moment a list of the tertiary institutions that will have the opportunity to cast that one vote. Now, before I present that list of tertiary institutions, may I suggest to you humbly this afternoon that if your institution, if you're a president or an executive member of a student-led body and you do not hear the name of your institution, I will give you the opportunity as your returning officer to send us an email stating your name, your position in the organization that you represent, and the name of the institution that you're inquiring about. Submit that information to jutsja@gmail.com by no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. The list of institutions eligible to vote are as follows: Sam Sharp Teachers College, Caribbean Maritime University Western Campus, University of West Indies Mona Western Campus, University of Technology Jamaica Western Campus, Bonnie College, Brownstone Community College, College of Agriculture, Science and Education, Michael University, University of the West Indies Mona, University of Technology Jamaica, Caribbean Maritime University, Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts, Norman Manley Law School, University of Commonwealth Caribbean, Northern Caribbean University Eastern, St. Joseph's Teachers College, Shortwood Teachers College, Excelsior Community College, Northern Caribbean University, G.C. Foster College, Churches Teachers College, Church, my apology, I stand corrected. I really can't read it. Church Teachers College, apostrophe S and teacher, not and teacher, right? Not church. Yes, man. Bethlehem Moravian College, Knox Community College, Bethel Bible College of the Caribbean, Northern Caribbean Western, All-American Institute of Medical Science, Montego Bay Community College, Vocational Training Development Institute, Kingston, Vocational Training Development Institute, Mandeville, United Theological College of the West Indies, and that would conclude the list. Again, if you haven't heard your institution being mentioned on this list of eligible institutions, institutions eligible to vote, you have the chance to shoot us an email at jutsja.com. You have the chance to send us an email, my apologies, send us an email at jutsja@gmail.com no later than 5 p.m. tomorrow afternoon, stating the institution, your name, and your title or position in that institution. Now, what will happen hereafter is that election link using the software that we will use to facilitate voting. Of course, voting won't be done in a case where we're going to a poll or a physical location. It will be done online. Now, an election link will be sent to the presidents and their respective delegates via email, and they will have 36 hours to cast their vote. Now, that 36 hours, that period will begin at 8 p.m. on Monday, March 22nd, and it will go until 12 p.m. on, well, not 12 p.m., 11:59, on Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. So again, for utmost clarity, a 36-hour voting period spanning from Monday, that's tomorrow, March 22nd, at 8 p.m. to Tuesday, March 23rd at 11:59 p.m. It's interesting to know that today is the last day of voting for candidates. Updates as to the time that I would have stated a while ago will be provided. So please stay tuned for further updates. Now, in the closing remarks that would have been shared by our presidents, we understand that, especially for the presidential candidates, they do share in a cordial relationship. I've had the displeasure of receiving reports of heated exchange and, enemies being formed as a result of the whole excitement caused by elections. I entreat, I beg, I beseech of us to be intelligent students. We represent a minute fraction of those that represent the articulate minority in our society. Let us endeavor to be responsible in our doings, and let us remember that there is life after these elections. I close by saying the election date has been set. Come Monday night at 8 p.m., the voting polls will be open. Delegates and presidents, vote responsibly on election day. I thank you.
I had thought that the campaigns were over. I believe that elections had closed, but apparently our arrows may be running for something that I'm unaware of. Ladies and gentlemen, we've heard information about the candidates, we've heard information about the elections, we've heard information regarding the plans and the objectives of the candidates, and just now we've heard information concerning the voting process. There is nothing more that you can be edified about that you've not already heard today. And so, ladies and gentlemen, student leaders, students, specially invited guests, parents, all in the hearing of my voice, this was the biannual Secretariat, Vice Presidential and Presidential debate for the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students on this, the 21st day of March in the year 2021. I'm Eugene Eunice, and I wish you a wonderful rest of day. Godspeed.